Hi guys, welcome back to Terribly Racing. So my name is Angelo, for any of you that don't know me. I've been sim racing now on a proper rig for about 3-4 years. I've been playing Forza and stuff like that for the past 15 years. And the point of this video is I want to tell you everything that I've learned over those 15 years about the rig, about sim racing, some of my experience and what I wish I knew before I started this whole journey. So just some background before that as well. I used to race in karts from the age of 10 up until 15, so a good 5 years in karts, working through the categories. And yeah, at the same time, always playing games like Forza, Motorsport, the Horizons, ACC, some Project Cars, some AC, and now finally iRacing. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still so much fun, but you are going to have to learn to be patient, and you're going to have to put in a lot of hours to get competitive and get comfortable in your sim. Now, there's a lot more information to know about the sim, about different sims to play, but whatever sim you play, wherever you're playing, whatever you're doing, you're going to need to be patient. You're going to have to take time. You're probably going to have to watch some videos about some people telling you how to do certain things. Just setting up certain sims can be a bit of a ball ache. So many different buttons to configure. There's so much different equipment to deal with. Yeah, one of the key things to know is you're going to have to be patient, and it will come and it will be worth it. But just don't jump into buying £4,000 worth of sim gear. Try it for a week and give up. There's no point. If you're going to do it for 1 week and you can't learn new things, this isn't going to be for you. I'm guessing most of you have played some sort of games either on Xbox or PlayStation, maybe Gran Turismo or Forza. That's how most people end up getting here. Maybe you played one of the rally games, maybe you played Dirt or one of the older, what is it, Colin McRae. There's a lot of different routes to get here, and playing with a controller is a lot easier than playing with a wheel and sim setup, because with the controller you get assists, you get aids, and a lot of those games they're kind of arcadey in a way. They do that to increase the audience that can play the game. Now when you step into sim racing, it does what it says on the tin. It's a simulator, so if you can't race in real life or you've never raced in real life, then this is going to be a big step up. This is going to feel a bit challenging, a bit daunting at first. And you will be off the pace. Even people that race, when they get into a simulator for the first time, they're never going to instantly be there, because there's a lot to get used to. You've not got any of the forces that you would feel in a normal car, and you've also got to contend with 20 other people on the limit, and you've got to deal with internet ping, net code, like all of these different terms for how the game deals with you being in different places and racing each other online. Now, in terms of buying the right equipment, there is no correct equipment. Like, there is no one correct solution that's going to work for everyone. In terms of value, you can spend more than 10,000 on a simulator, but are you going to get more enjoyment out of someone that spends 1,000? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If that person loves what they're doing and it's set up for them perfectly, and they're going to use it day in, day out, and you're only going to use that £10,000 simulator, I don't know, once a month, yeah, the value's not there. So it's kind of hard to give guidance in one short clip. But in short, direct drives are the best bases you're going to be able to play with. Low toe pedals are what you want to aim to work towards. And a solid rig is really important to enjoy all the other peripherals. The screens, there's lots of different types of screens. I really don't like seeing people racing around 16:9. If you don't know what 16:9 means, it's the aspect ratio. It just means it's a normal screen, how you would have a normal monitor. If you can go to a 21 or even a 32:9, the super ultra wide, or then go to VR or triples, you're going to be a lot more immersed. And I think that is really important when you're sim racing. One of the hardest things is getting to grips with the lack of information. So if you can really get your eyes and eye line into a realistic environment where you feel like you're inside a car, it's going to help you so much getting to grips with everything. You don't even need the best wheel or the best wheelbase. If you can see everything a lot better. Some people play games with no force feedback. They have no information back through the steering wheel, but they're just about good enough to realize everything that's going on the screen and try and play to that feedback. So I think screens are really important, the aspect ratio you're playing with, and then you're going to have to do a lot of research into what sort of equipment is going to be right for your budget, and then what I'd say is work your way up. You're never going to be able to, unless you've got loads of money to throw at it. I wouldn't advise anyone spending silly money on their first simulator. Now, silly money to people can be different amounts of money, but I wouldn't get into sim racing for less than £200. Was you can get a wheel and pedals for £250 or £200, even cheaper if you buy used. But without a rig, you're going to find it a little bit harder to enjoy yourself because things aren't going to be locked down, things are going to have some wiggle to them, and you're going to struggle to get the most out of your peripherals. Also, if you buy once something solid, maybe you spend a little bit more on the rig, you can always add your more expensive peripherals later on and you don't have to buy again. Whereas if you go for a cheap rig at 80, 100, £200, it doesn't sound cheap, but in sim racing it is, then you're probably gonna have to buy again in the future because it's not going to be able to withstand the strength of a direct drive base. Now, in terms of simulators, I've obviously raced at the beginning of my career, I guess, in sim racing on Forza, Forza Horizon and Motorsport. Now, I wouldn't call those sims, but that's where I learned how to race, really. Maybe even before then, there was older games that I used to play, but I'd say Forza was the most realistic arcade that I would play. Now, that was obviously on controller, so I learned a lot of my racing lines there. And don't knock arcade games necessarily, because you can still learn racing lines, you can still learn how to overtake inside line, outside line, but yeah, obviously you're losing some of the fidelity when you play on an arcade. Now, in my experience, I've played with Assetto Corsa Competizione, now iRacing, and I will say iRacing is probably my favourite. Now, that's not necessarily because everything iRacing does I really like, but the main thing I like, and I think that what's probably the most important for most sim racers, is the ability to go into a ranked race at a set time and always know there's going to be a good field there of people, and they should be your skill level, and you can also tell how skillful or how safe of a driver they're going to be. So you're going to be able to have wheel-to-wheel racing like you're seeing on screen now. It's not going to always be, you know, when you go on Forza, you get rammed in the back every first corner because there's no punishment for those sorts of things. Whereas in iRacing and a few other games, ACC, there is safety racing and that sort of thing. So you can't come up against people that are going to just take you out, and there's a means to protest that, especially in iRacing. That's why I think it's my favourite sim at the minute. Now, it's obviously the most extortionate in terms of pricing, which is why a lot of people race on stuff like ACC or Assetto Corsa or even R Factor. I've never raced R Factor, but I would love to get the sim, try it out. I've heard it's a great sim, and a lot of the, I believe, F1 simulators run off of a version of R Factor. They obviously play with it and set it up for themselves, but yeah, in terms of true realistic sims, I wouldn't say there's one sim that's the best above all. They all have their own flaws, but if you're looking to online race competitively and know that you're always going to have a good lobby of people, iRacing is the most reliable source for that. Now, talking about equipment, depending on whether you're playing on PC or console is going to make a bit of a difference. The best equipment, in my opinion, works with PCs 100%, obviously, but they don't always work with console. Console is always fighting a battle of compatibility and licensing. You end up having to pay quite a bit more to get those licensing features. So Fanatec obviously have deals, although Fanatec at the minute are going down the shit. They are not having a good time. Customer support is not good, and I wouldn't trust them. Not that they don't make good products, not that they haven't been good in the past, or they could be good in the future, but at the minute, I'd stay clear. I just wouldn't want to have to deal with any problems. Now, going for PC route is going to be better in the long run, so you're going to be able to run more games, play with more settings, and overall you're going to get a better experience, and you're going to have better compatibility all around. Even with screens, for example, you don't have to, you're not locked into one ecosystem. So yeah, I'd go for a PC if you can. Obviously then that would be another cost, but eventually you'll learn that PC gaming for the most part is going to be a bit of an advantage. You might have to pay more up front for those for that PC, but you're going to be able to play more games longer into the future, and your console's never going to be redundant. You can always swap out the internals and run better frames in the future. Now, in terms of realism versus fun, so a lot of people would say the Simcade games can be generally maybe more fun. Not always the case. but the less hardcore, that you make a mistake and you're not punished as much as you are in, say, iRacing, a real sim, for example. iRacing, you're going to get damage, so even if you just tap someone in the first corner because of lag, then the next part of your race is somewhat ruined because you're going to be losing bleeding time, which is what happens in a real race. If you're driving and you touch your front wing, you could break a winglet. That's going to cost you time. So there's an element of sim racing which isn't fun because it really is hardcore. You have to be in the sim. If someone comes in and starts trying to talk to you midway through a race, you can't pause it. Obviously, that's just online racing, but it's a bit different when that's the end of the clip. If I'm completely honest, maybe you can have more fun just sticking to simcade games, just playing Forza from time to time and getting a couple of race wins and bumping and grinding with whatever online racing that you've got. There's a lot of bumping, there's a lot of smashing people to shit. It just happens in a simcade. Now, with simulation racing, iRacing for example, small mistakes are going to cost you. If you dip a wheel in the grass, you spin, you crash, that's it. Your race is pretty much done. You can't just carry on driving. You will lose an element of what you thought racing was when you used to race on a simcade, because it's basically as close as you can get to real life, and maybe that will suck the fun out sometimes. If you get a race ruined where you've done like 20 minutes practice, 10 minutes qualifying, you go into the race in the first corner, someone smashes you to shit, you are going to be a bit pissed off. But at the same time, in the same breath, that's what makes winning a sim race much more exciting, because you've worked that much harder for it. You've had to be that much closer to the limit, and you can't afford any mistakes. So when you do pull off a win, you feel so much better for it. And there's almost no assists in any of these games. No traction control in a lot of the cars, no ABS. It depends what sim you choose and what car you're in, of course. But yeah, you kind of have to be a bit diehard if you want to jump into sim racing. Now you can jump into a sim and you can do Truck Simulator or BeamNG, or even just Assetto Corsa with the mods, just to enjoy being in the car that you could never afford, for example, in real life, or being able to go on a track day when you just wanted to take your car around the track, like a TT, for example. You didn't want to actually take your car there. There's lots of elements that are still going to be lots of fun. If you're racing in sim racing, it is very serious. It's very competitive. It's so much fun. It's so rewarding, but at the same time, it can be it can be somewhat depressing when you've done 30 minutes or an hour's worth of practice. Like, look at Max, for example, doing a 24-hour race with the Team Redline. That race can get ruined by someone being stupid. Now, it doesn't normally happen because of the safety racing, but it's going to be painful. You've done a 24-hour race. There's a lot more on the line than people think. When you say sim racing, some people don't understand how serious it can be. Now, I hope I've given you quite a good idea of what it would be like to sim race and what you might need to get into sim racing, and what kind of mentality, what you might want to spend. But I feel like what I should do in a soon coming video is put up sort of like price ranges, say like a £500 simulator, a £1,500 simulator, a £3,000 simulator, and maybe like a £6,000 simulator. What you should get for that sort of money. And put maybe some like a tier list in for certain equipment, and what I think of it based off of my understanding from the equipment that I've used, and also my understanding of all the other equipment I've seen. I've watched probably thousands of hours of YouTube videos from YouTube reviewers, from just people using their own equipment, even my own friends, just to try and help you guys out what sort of budget you should come in at. And maybe I can do like a ranked list for the sims as well, with all their pros and cons. Now, if you guys like that, that'd be great. Whack it in the comments what sort of budget you're looking at, so I can tailor that into the next video. And yeah, we'll go from there. Finally, if you do enjoy watching this content, I've done a few different types of videos. This is probably the most face-to-face video that I've done. Give us a like, subscribe if you enjoy it, and I'll be putting out more content soon. I do a lot of streaming, so I stream a lot of my iRacing races. So if you want to see what iRacing is like, or what it's like to drive the F4s, come check out my stream. I drive some of the GT cars. The MX-5s are good fun. I also want to get into the Porsche Cup cars, so follow me on the journey there. Cheers.